knows the book Wild Swans, Three Daughters of China? Yeah. I read it quite some years ago now. It is the first-hand account of life in China through the years 1909 to 1978. And it is an eye-opening account of the Cultural Revolution. It is an almost unbelievable account of a whole nation being brainwashed with their devotion to one man, Chairman Mao. The most incredible things happened under his rule. People were tortured and murdered, families split, education stopped, and the young turned against the old. Fear ruled. Yet people worshipped this man. They followed his word blindly, even when he asked them to do the strangest of things. At one time, he ordered all grass and flowers to be removed. At another time, he took a dislike to sparrows. Each household was mobilised. People had to sit outside ferociously beating any metal object, from cymbals to saucepans, to scare the sparrows off the trees, so that they would eventually drop dead from exhaustion. It is almost beyond comprehension how people could have fallen for this and just let it happen. Bill Chang, the author, made a very telling comment near the end of the book. She said, "I started to realise that was Mao was really responsible for the Cultural Revolution, but I still did not condemn him explicitly, even in my own mind. It was so difficult to destroy a god." And that is how they saw this man. They saw him as a god. They thought he could do no wrong. But following that God brought death and destruction to a whole nation. People closed their minds to what was really happening. They stopped thinking for themselves. They could not see that in blindly following this man, they had chosen death over life. Hopefully what happened in China will never happen here. Hopefully our society could never be repressed in such a way. But we too have our false gods that in their own way bring a form of death. We idolise comfort. We don't want to get involved in case we are hurt. So we close our eyes to much that is happening around us. We idolise possessions. We must have the latest and the greatest for ourselves and our families. So our priorities become all wrong. We idolise security. It is so hard to live with uncertainty and doubt. We turn our back on the many challenges that life places before us. Bishop John Taylor, in his book A Matter of Life and Death, says, "There is a surprising amount of deadness around in our Western societies. People shrink from the pain of being fully awake. The child who's intensely alive to the wonder of each shell and pebble, quickly discovers that he cannot tunnel that vision so as to be aware of the beautiful and happy things alone. Eyes that remain open to the glory of the world must see its ugliness as well. It involves great pain and takes enormous courage to remain fully exposed. Our growing up is usually a process of closing up. We actually choose to be less alive in order to be less bothered. Awareness makes demands. Awareness hurts. We begin to grow a protective shell and become a little blind, a little death, a little death. There is so much pain in our world today that it is not really surprising that this does in fact happen. I don't know about you, but I know there's times now when so much is happening in our world that I just want to do that and not see, not hear, protect myself from it. But that has its consequences. On Monday, I read this comment from the Sunday Times. The risk of forgetting history is that we are destined to repeat it. Dame Kate Bingham, who chaired the vaccine task force at the height of the COVID emergency, said the United Kingdom's pandemic preparedness had declined since the emergency ended. The health minister, who was there in 2020 and 2021, agrees. He said it's in the psychology of all of us that we turn away from bad things that have happened in our life. And that's what's happening there. We are like Ezekiel's dry bones, waiting for a fresh breath of the Spirit to give us new sinew and flesh and skin, so that we might become whole again. Michael Marshall says, to attempt to insulate ourselves from disappointment and demand once and for all kind of answers to life's questions is to close ourselves to the vulnerabilities that make possible real life, love, intimacy, and relationships with God and one another. It limits what we are willing to risk giving or receiving. It leaves the stone in place over Lazarus' tomb and refuses to consider God's question to Ezekiel. While we might want to escape our disappointments, life wants to use them. Life will not waste our disappointments, and Jesus always stands in the middle of life. Disappointment calls into question our assumptions about life, ourselves, each other, and God. It is the first step in freeing us from misguided assumptions. It breaks old patterns of seeing and relating that have become hardened and less than life-sustaining. It opens our eyes to a deeper way of seeing. In the first reading, God says to Ezekiel, prophesy, therefore, and say to them, these are the words of the Lord God. O my people, I will open your graves and bring you up from them. I will put my spirit into you, and you shall live. In the Gospel this morning, Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever has faith in me shall live. Putting our trust in God and opening ourselves to life in all its beauty and its pain is the only way forward. There are always going to be challenges and difficulties to confront us, and it is only through God that we will find the strength and the courage to handle these. We need to put our lives into God's hands and take each step in faith. That step might mean making a difficult decision, such as a father laying down his pride and making the first move towards a better understanding with a child. Or politicians gathering up their courage to challenge party colleagues over a policy they feel is unjust. And yes, that step may not be easy or welcomed by others. Cling to what you have at the moment, close yourself to the pain, you are lost. Unclench your hands and let it slip away, and you are ready to receive unimagined new life. I like these words of Nazareth to Hester. The resurrection came to people who were at the end of their tether, people who were devastated with no hope for the kingdom that they had longed for. Resurrection happened not with trumpet sounds, Easter lilies, budding trees, and a great burst of sunlight. It came in the early morning mist, while it was still too dark to see, through weeping and weariness, through fear and confusion, through the disorientation of grief, through arms reaching out to feel the way in the darkness. It came. Came not because of anything any of those people had done. It came not because of anything that we might do. It comes because our God is a God who breathes new life into dead bones. The resurrection did not change this Good Friday world of ours. The resurrection did not change the fact that violence and wars and all that they bring will probably always be part of life on earth. The resurrection did not change the fact that probably there will always be people caught in the depths of despair. But what the resurrection offered, what the story of Lazarus offers, is the fact that no matter how black things may seem, there is always hope. Jesus said to the crowd gathered around the tomb, "Unbind him, let him go." A reminder that yet again that we are called to be involved in God's plan. A reminder of our need to be always there for others. Breathe on us, breath of God. Fill us with life anew, that we may love what thou dost love, and do what thou canst do. Amen.